Hey there, my name is Megan and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Today, Today I'm going to be discussing my top 10 anticipated thriller books being released in 2025. I do have an entire playlist of book reviews of the thriller books that I have read, which I will link up in the cards as well as in the description box below. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get on into my most anticipated thriller books of 2025, and I am going to be discussing them in release date order with regards to the month they're being released in. The first book is The Business Trip by Jessie Garcia. This is being released on January 14th. This is a debut novel, and we are following two different women, Stephanie and Jasmine, and they meet on a plane. Stephanie is on a business trip, and Jasmine is fleeing an abusive relationship. After a few days, the friends of both girls start receiving really strange text messages from Jasmine and Stephanie, and then the girls completely vanish. Ironically, the text messages that these girls were sending to their friends were about the same man named Trent McCarthy. So when these girls go missing, right away people think Trent McCarthy had something to do with it, but no one has any idea who this man is and how these women knew him. The business trip is described as having a ton of twists and turns, as well as manipulative characters and who exactly is playing whom. The next book is We Are Watching by Alison Gaylin. Expected release date is the 28th of January. We are following a main character named Meg. She was behind the wheel of her car one day. Her husband Justin was in the passenger seat, and they were driving their college-age daughter to college when another car sidles up beside them and runs them off the roads. They end up getting into an accident, and Justin, Meg's husband, doesn't survive. 4 months later, Meg is still grieving over the loss of her husband, but she decides to reopen the bookstore that she owns. Soon after returning to work, Meg starts receiving really strange messages and people start vandalizing her store. The people behind the vandalism are obsessed with a young adult novel known as The Prophecy, which was published 20 years prior. People think that the book is prophetic and that it heralds in the apocalypse. These people decide to take vengeance on the writer of this book, who happens to be Meg. As the vandalism towards her store and threats towards Meg begin to become more violent, Meg begins to question whether that day when Justin died, when she was run off the road, was actually an accident or pre-planned. In order to protect herself and her daughter, Meg has to confront these people face to face, as well as research the lies surrounding this book and that have been told about her. Next, we have Beautiful Ugly by Feeney. Expected release date is January 14th. We are following an author named Grady Green, and one day he calls his wife because he has some really good news, and she's in the car when she takes the call, and Grady can hear her slam on the brakes, open the car door, and then there is silence. Grady's wife's car is found on the edge of a cliff with the headlights on, and the phone is still in the car, but his wife is nowhere to be seen. A year later, Grady is still overcome with grief, so he decides to take a holiday and retreats to a small island off the coast of Scotland. On this tiny island, he encounters the impossible, a woman who looks exactly like his wife, but he doesn't know if it's exactly her. So this book explores the truth of what happened that night and who may have been involved, and if this woman is actually Abby, Grady's missing wife. Next, we have Close Your Eyes and Count to 10 by Lisa Unger. Expected release date is January 25th. In this book, we are following a daredevil named Maverick Dillon. Maverick is hosting this fun hide-and-seek type game on this island known as Falco Island, but very quickly, the events of this game spiral out of control, leading to a game of survival, not hide-and-seek. We are following a single mother named Adele who entered into this game in order to help out her family, and she quickly learns that a threat is stalking her and is trying to turn each one of her challenges into something more sinister than it was meant to be. And then we have a social media presence that is covering this entire game, but might be distorting what it's all about. Next, we have The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig. Expected release date is April 25th. And honestly, this book just sounds creepy as heck, and I really like the cover. We are following 5 high school students who made a pact. They promised to protect each other no matter what the cost. Then one night, when they were all on a camping trip in the middle of the woods, they uncover something that is really not possible. It is a winding staircase in the middle of the forest that leads to nowhere. One friend decides to walk up it, disappears, and then the staircase disappears. 20 years later, the staircase has reappeared in the same location. Now the group, because of the pact that they made with one another, decide to find out what happened to their lost friend 2 decades ago and find out exactly where the stairway leads in this part of the woods. Next, we have The Murder Machine by Heather Graham. Expected release date is April 29th. In this book, we are following a murder that takes place in a smart home. We have elements of AI that control a lot of the parts of the house. We are following an FBI agent named Jude, and he is tasked with figuring out how the smart home killed the owner. Then we have Special Agent Victoria Tennant, and she basically realizes that computers only do what they're programmed and directed to do, so this is a cybercrime, and she has to dig into who might have been controlling the house to kill this woman. As more of these grisly accidents pop up around the country, Jude and Victoria have to race against the clock to figure out who this perpetrator is, who is hacking into these home systems and creating these murders. Next, we have Small Town Horror by Ronald Malfi. We are following a main character named Andrew who left his small town home years and years ago. One day he receives a strange late-night phone call that brings him back, and he has to confront something grisly that happened many years ago in his small hometown. Something happened in the past with regards to Andrew and his friends that has reawakened, and they are forced to confront them. Honestly, that's really all the synopsis says about this book. I have read one other Ronald Malfi book called The Night Parade, and I actually really did enjoy it, and I've been meaning to pick up more of his books since, which is why I decided to include this book on this list. Next, we have a new Riley Sager book called With Vengeance, and expected release date is June 10th. Super excited about this one. I've read all of Riley Sager's currently published books. In fact, I did an entire video where I ranked all of his books, so I will link that up in the cards if you guys are interested in checking it out. Also, if you have not already subscribed to my channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button, as well as giving this video a like to throw my channel a little bit of support, and I really hope you're enjoying all of these thriller book recommendations. In With a Vengeance, we are following a main character named Anna, and in 1942, her entire family was destroyed. 12 years later, she's ready to seek her vengeance. Under false pretenses, Anna has lured the 6 people responsible for her family's demise onto a luxury train that is traveling, I believe, from Chicago to Philadelphia. It's an overnight journey of 13 hours, and her main goal is to confront those who ruined her life. She plans to get them to confess their crimes, and then law enforcement will be waiting at the end of their journey to arrest them, and vengeance will have been satisfied. But Anna's plan is quickly derailed when one of the passengers ends up murdered. As the train barrels through the night, it becomes evident that there is one person on their ride who is seeking their own vengeance, and they don't plan to leave anyone else alive. As the train barrels towards its destination, Anna must confront the killer, protect herself, and even protect those that she's sworn to hate in order for justice to be served. Next, we have Don't Let Him In by Lisa Jewell. Expected release date is June 24th. At the beginning of the book, we're following a character, a restaurateur named Patty, and one day someone pushed him in front of a train and he was killed. He left behind a daughter and a wife. Shortly after Patty's funeral, the 2 women received something unusual in the mail. It's from a man named Nick Ratcliffe, who was an old friend of Patty's, and he included in the package a lighter of Patty's that was decades old. This whole encounter brings Nina and Nick closer together, to Ash's dismay. Then we're following a character named Martha, who is a small-town florist. She lives with her second husband, Al, and their children. This family never seems to have any money, and unfortunately, Al travels a lot for work, which makes it really hard on their marriage and family. But Nick and Al might not be exactly who they claim to be, and events between these 2 men lead these 3 women, Nina, Ash, and Martha, on a collision course as they have to unravel how these 2 families are connected, related, and what exactly it had to do with Patty's murder. And lastly, we have The Woman in Suite 11 by Ruth Ware. This is the companion to The Woman in Cabin 10, which I read and really enjoyed. I do have a full review for it, so I'll link that up in the cards for you guys. So I'm interested to see how Ruth Ware continues this story. Expected release date is July 8th. In book one, we were introduced to Lo, and Lo is a travel writer from what I remember. So she's often invited to grand openings of new hotels, resorts, cruise ships, etc., so that she can write about them and give these companies publicity. Lo is now married and she has a 3-year-old child, and one day she gets an invitation to attend this grand opening of this luxury Swiss resort owned by this billionaire. Lo travels to Switzerland and stays at a chateau on Lake Geneva. And she wants to get a hold of this billionaire named Marcus so that she can interview him, but he's very hard to get a hold of. One day she receives a phone call asking her to come to his hotel room so that she can interview him. And the door is answered by a woman claiming to be his mistress and claims that she is in jeopardy and trouble and needs Lo's help. What follows is a cat and mouse type pursuit as Lo decides to lead this woman to safety, but she starts to ask herself if this woman is even telling the truth and whether it's worth risking her own life for the safety of this woman she barely knows. All right, you guys, those are 10 of my most anticipated thriller books being released in 2025. Let me know in the comments which one of these books you are most excited for, or let me know a thriller book that isn't on this list that you are super excited for. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in another video soon. Goodbye.